Hello? 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 How's everybody doing? Oh man, it is always a great day to be hanging out with you guys. Happy Sunday. Happy beginning of October. I think the last time I chatted with some of you guys was on Thursday, although some of you guys might have caught up on Rocket Lab Weekly, and I was also on Pouncer Weekly. So it's a great time. So when's the last time I chatted with you guys? I guess it was Friday or Thursday, the 3rd. Yes, that's right. I just updated the tracker below. Futures are opening pretty good. So far, so good. I just updated the ticker on the bottom. So I was just looking at futures. Let's just take a look at them together. I was surprised. I was surprised to see that everything is continuing to look green. We are at all-time highs. We are in the greed territory. Let's make sure I'm sharing the right microphone and everything. Mike and Yeti. All right, we're good. We're sharing the right stuff. Okay. Sorry if you hear a bunch of clinging. I am doing laundry in the background. So Maddie Moolah is trying to keep the clothes clean. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at this, and then I have a bunch of YouTube clips we can run through. But overall, just wanted to say hello, pop in, make sure that everybody's feeling good, everybody's ready for October. It's going to be a very volatile month. Red October, some may call it. We'll see. We'll see if it's red. Sometimes October can be a little bit volatile. In terms of where we're looking, the futures, what are they looking like? So everything's in the greed territory. Changes overnight is 33 up on the Dow, so we're just below 43,000, which is insane. 5,800 on the SPY. That's also insane. And then on NASDAQ, we are at just over 20,000, up about 0.1%. So it's pretty insane. Do I have, I thought I had a Robinhood open. Do I not have a Robinhood open? Because I was literally just updating. Let me see. I don't. Okay, so let me open one. I was literally just looking at SPY, and it's doing its thing overnight, 24-hour trading. So let's take a quick look at that. Share this tab so you guys could see SPY is doing its thing. It's up and it's kind of hanging out. Is it almost all-time highs? Almost. 574 was where it was at. In fact, let's take a quick look. Where did it clock in last for all-time highs? 575 basically. So we're there. We're almost there, guys. And it's done rather well for the year, up 20%. So congrats to everybody that's beating that, or even just a 20% return for the year. If you're just investing in the SPY, there's nothing wrong with that. So congratulations for you guys on that one. And then I saw this bad boy continuing to do its thing. Might as well share while we're here. Palantir, $40.11 in overnight trading. Absolutely phenomenal. I was watching the stream with Amit and TJ. They were doing the market open, and they were talking about their option segment, and I saw it hit across 40 for the first time in quite some time. I was watching it in 2021, January, February 2021, when it crossed. And keep in mind, the share counts expanded massively since then. So I think the market cap back then hit 60 billion, 65 billion, something along those lines. But the share counts expanded rather rapidly. So to be back at 40 with the additional 40% in shares since the direct listing date is pretty phenomenal. So congrats to everybody that's been holding on to this one. Some of the cheapest shares I have are in the $7-6 range. I don't think I bought the exact bottom, and I wish I was more aggressive. But hey, man, everything in 2022 is pretty scary. I'm not going to lie. And in retrospect, I was buying things like Google and Amazon hand over fist when I could. But unfortunately, didn't buy nearly enough. So that is what it is. So last one I want to check, and then we'll get into the ticker. We'll get into the chat as well. Bitcoin, a little bit of a spike up over the past few, about 1% over the last hour, 3% over the past day, and just about breaking even. So we did pull back a little bit. So I'm kind of curious, because if you look at it from a 1-year chart, we've kind of been consolidating. Some people might be able to draw some fancy things into here, but to me, it looks like we're making higher lows, if that makes sense. So I would have expected that you would have pulled back here. You are seeing some sort of resistance. So if we do surpass this, we get to like 68,000 or something of the like. Man, I think this thing might be off to the races. So we'll see. We're at 64. It looks like it's getting pretty bullish. We see a little spike up here over the past few minutes. We'll see if we continue back to 64, maybe back up to 65. So October 6th, 2024. Happy all of you guys are here. Contemplate becoming a member or subscribe. Subscribing is absolutely free. Allows you to chat in the chat with everybody in the great community that we've been able to establish. Apple 226, Amazon 186, Dutch Bros hanging about at 32.50, Google 167. Palantir, $40. Can't believe it. S&P 500, 573. The Q's 488. Bitcoin we just looked at just below 64,000. Oil, which was a big change from last week, last Thursday when we chatted, up about $10. So geopolitical tensions associated with that. Curious to see. I'm impressed that it didn't spike up to $80 with what's going on, the intensity of the war. I'm still bearish for oil in the medium term. Granted, that is my assumptions were without a lot of geopolitical issues. So we'll see what happens with that. And if those persist, then obviously it'll be pretty tough, very tough, actually, to kind of go down, especially when you have geopolitical tension. So congrats to everybody. I just think it's tough, right? You're in this no man's land. What's a good one to kind of choose from? I don't want to. Let's choose Oxy. A lot of people are like, oh, let's buy Oxy, let's buy Oxy, let's buy Oxy. But let's just look. Oxy peaked out at $74 or so. You're down a good bit. And I still think that there's a lot to be said about what people are forecasting for Q3 earnings. There's two things going on. There's cheaper oil prices. That's obvious over the past few weeks and months. But there's also rising costs in general. So it's a place where anytime a company or an industry is expensive and not expensive, profitable, making money, you're always going to have the service companies trying to help in increase in inflation within that particular industry because they want to make more money too, right? And so you have all these things that when things go well, the underlying costs of doing business will always increase. So if you have everything kind of slowly going in the right direction in terms of oil price as well as costs of doing business, then you'll be able to maintain a constant margin. The problem is over the past 2 years, since July-ish, June-ish of 2022, since the Ukraine-Russia war started breaking out, when we hit $110, $120 a barrel, people were making money hand over fist in 2022. And same thing with 2023. Natural gas prices were elevated as well, going from 2022 into 2023. So a lot of people are making a lot of money. But since then, we've retraced oil prices by, 40% or so. And so you're seeing two things. You're seeing profits start to wane because obviously we're 40% down on the commodities price. And then two, you're seeing the underlying cost of doing business, the cost of goods sold to be able to get things out of the ground go up as well. So you're almost seeing a double whammy. So you're starting to squeeze. I anticipate you're going to see a lot of buybacks start to get suspended or shrunk comparatively to what they were in 2022, 2023. And I feel like the market's not going to really like that. I feel like we haven't hit that point yet. And it goes back to me saying, I think oil prices are going to be hindered in the short term, unless we still continue to have these geopolitical issues. That's obviously the piece that would really put a wrench into the bear thesis, as it already kind of has. We've seen oil prices increase by about $9 or $10 since their lows last week. I don't know. I just think that the world is still too flush with oil. People are still continuing to sanction projects. We will see. We will see what ends up happening with that. It just is not an advantageous time for oil companies to do business. I don't want to speak too much on this piece, but the UK is increasing windfall taxes likely on doing business in the North Sea. That makes it more difficult for companies. You're starting to see companies either sell or pull out of the North Sea altogether, or go to the Nordic side of the North Sea in Norway rather than the UK side. So it's interesting. Things are very volatile. And at the end of the day, it's still an important piece of it because we make about 100 million barrels a day and we use about 100 million barrels a day. Still massively a huge part of the economy in terms of how it operates, how it continues to go. And there's just a lot of supply right now, a lot of supply, especially in the Middle East. So, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. Let's hop into some quick roundabouts. Say hello to the 60 or so of you in here. Hello, hello, hello. Apologies. My contacts are bothering the crap out of me. So if I can't read, one, I can't read well in the first place, but two, it's probably because my contacts need to be switched out. We got Emil. What's going on? How is the overnight trading looking like? Love from Sweden. We shared that. Hopefully things are going well. Sense, what's going on? All the great videos and jokes. Thanks, man. I'm not very funny, but I try my best. AK Willie, thanks for the continued support, brother. Steelers game's supposed to start in 10 minutes. I know. I do want to make this a little short one if I can. That's why I tried coming on. I should have. I was too lazy doom scrolling on my couch. And I was like, ooh, I should do a live while I'm waiting. But yeah, at this point, they probably kicked off. Yeah, they probably kicked off about 5 minutes ago. I'm in weather delay. Exactly. 100%. Brent, what's going on? Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's do it. I agree. All the X people, that's awesome. Glad to see you guys chiming in on X. If you guys could do me a favor, in the description, we also have a Twitch link. And I might start doing some Twitch only streams just to be able to get the viewership over there. I'd like to get that in other avenue going as well. So if any of you guys have a Twitch account, please be sure to like on that. Miami Rem, what's going on? Don't know if I've seen you before, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Johnny, my guy, the myth, the legend. What is going on? Let's see. When will Rocket Lab make us rich? 24 months. 24 months, you'll see it going from the second inning to the third inning. It'll be fun. Thought this was a myth. I'll just end the stream here. I'll just end it here. Yes. Not public anymore, but curious on your thoughts of Maxar Technologies. I don't really have much, man. A lot of people ask me about, like, what about ASTS? Or what about this company? What about that company? And I'm like, I get it. Like, my conviction play is Rocket Lab for that industry. And it might not be the best specifically for satellites. It might not be the best specifically for meta constellations. But to me, it's the one that's best integrated across all the realms. And to me, I think it's going to play well when it comes to getting shit down and getting shit up in space. So to me, I'm like, I could diversify. I could try my best to, like, put as many pawns on as many, places as I want to try to make sure that I win the game. But to me, I feel like I have the queen or king in my deck. And so it doesn't make sense to put the chessboard full with other players if I have the one that I think is really the master of what it will eventually be, space. Granted, SpaceX is ahead, but I think there's a big piece of SpaceX is still private. And if it does go public, I think it's going to be public partially through Starlink, not through SpaceX. And why is that important? To me, that's important because SpaceX, I think, will always be private. The overarching mission of SpaceX is interplanetary. That's going to be a historically decade, maybe 2 decade long losing venture. Unless it's heavily subsidized or paid for by NASA, it'll be a historically unprofitable piece of business. Where I think it'll help is if you have, like, a Rocket Lab being like, yeah, we'll help return some things if you pay us, right? Like, Rocket Lab has made it very clear that they will only do things if there's a large enough total addressable market to do them and make money. So I don't know. I just think I have my hands on the golden goose, and I don't want to dilute that because if I start to put focus on two companies and I'll try to compete, like, ooh, do I put my money here versus my money there? And overall, I just think that Rocket Lab's going to win. They're the one that have demonstrated the most execution capability, in my opinion. They've launched 53 rockets into space. They're the second most launched vehicle in the United States, the third most launched vehicle in the world. They're about to come out with a medium launch vehicle. Like, to me, all these things are positives. Why would I take an opportunity to take my eye off the ball and invest in a number two or a company that kind of does or partly does what Rocket Lab does? It just doesn't make sense. So I've wavered with that. I was like, ooh, maybe I invest in Black Sky. Maybe I do this. Maybe I do that. And to me, I'm just like, you know what, man? Like, I have my conviction and I'm going to stick with it. So no offense to anybody, right? This is just me. I'm talking about me. I'm not saying you're an idiot or anybody that invests in ASTS is stupid or invests in Black Sky is stupid. That's your MO. Like, go for it. I'm just saying this is for me. I've made my decision. And it's not to say that I'm going to stick with it, right? I'm always evaluating. But to me, I'm sticking with it. Midwest, what's going on, my guy? Yes, me, richer. I'm not rich, though. I don't know what you consider rich. Ray, what's going on? Make, what's going on? You're the myth, the legend. Laura G, what is going on? Thank you for being a member. Much appreciated on that. And by the way, I haven't said this yet, but there's about 20 active members on the channel, and I gifted 30 kind of like recently because like YouTube allows me to give free memberships. So for the first month, it's free. If you decide to keep on, that's fine. If you don't, but at some point, if it gets to substantial enough, I would love to grow like the membership where, and I've also contemplated doing like a separate Discord, not like to the extent of like Chris Patel's Discord where there's a lot of stuff, but almost like an thing. So you have like direct communication with me, and I could also keep track of like my trades and stuff of the like. I don't know. I've thought about it. If you guys are thinking that that would be interesting, let me know. But obviously, it would cost a membership to get into it. Whether it's, I've also contemplated doing a Patreon, not really because I plan on doing too much, but that's the other thing is like, it doesn't make sense for me for like $30 a month, which is probably about what I get right now in the memberships, which is appreciated, but it always goes back to the portfolio. But it's like do I want to double down and create more content specifically for our memberships to give people deeper value? Or do I just want to continue to give it for free? And view kind of memberships and stuff like that as donations. I struggle with it. Eventually, if it gets to large enough of amount of memberships, I would probably start to do like members only sort of stuff. But I just, I'd have to think about that. I would really have to think about it. Red Hill Ranch, what's going on? What's going on? Fresh cut. I got this cut a week or two ago before I went to London. And London was 2 weeks ago. So it was probably like 2.5 weeks ago I got a cut. Good to see everyone. I agree. Fit, what's going on? Best stocks to buy, SPY and QQQ. Mateo, what should we do? Just keep on keeping on, my guys. Greetings and salutation, Richard King. What's going on? Let's see. I can't see anything. A little worried about tomorrow's date. Geopolitical risk plus greed territory has me feeling cautious. I agree. I've also thought about selling my triple leveraged NASDAQ and putting it into SPY temporarily. Buy save on the dip. Save is Spirit Airlines, if I remember correctly, right? Yes. Is it on the dip? Let's see. Oh, that's a big dip. Is this thing going bankrupt? This is one of those ones where it's like, I don't lotto play very often. Man, is Spirit really about to go bankrupt? 100. That's like the cost of a 747. Interesting. I might have to buy some fancy leaps or something on that. We will see. All right. I think I made a mistake. Trimmed 700 shares at 40.18 and dumped into Rocket Lab. There's so much room for Rocket Lab to run, in your opinion. I don't think that's a bad move, my guy. I mean, I honestly am a firm believer in both, but I think there's an opportunity um, where Palantir comes back a little bit. I think it's a lot of institutional buying driven right now, and in that respect, I think you'll see a little bit of a pullback personally. And so putting money into Rocket Lab here, I don't think is a bad move. I still think that how do I say this? Rocket Lab has anywhere between the $4 to $5 billion market cap it has right now to 200 billion, where SpaceX is right now. So you have a very large upper end, and you're kind of at the lower end. So where you end up, does it get to 200 billion? I don't know. That's tough. Maybe eventually, but it's hard to tell with so many different parts moving right now, like the Meta Constellation piece or the Constellation piece, the Falcon 9 competitor Neutron. It's hard to say where they end up, but if some of those things play out well within 5 to 10 years, it could easily end up, not easily, but it could end up in the $200 billion range. It could, honestly. The semi industry, I do have Nvidia. I bought Nvidia a couple, probably like 2 months ago at $1.24, and I've been selling covered calls on that. So I think my cost basis is down to about $110 a share. And so I'm kind of seeing what happens with that. I'm wrestling with it. I like Nvidia, but I just don't necessarily know if it's something that I want to put my eggs into. So it's 200 shares. It's not a lot. So it's like $25 or so $1,000. My contemplation is, do I sell it, put more into Rocket Lab, and then some in the SPY and just let it kind of do its thing? Or do I honestly just say, you know what, there could be another double in Nvidia? Some people think there is. I just think that it's a lot. We will see. So it's tough. It's tough when it comes to some of those things. The Japanese index is up, and Chinese index is up. Rocket Labs is zero is the truth. It's going to go to zero, 100%. ET FaceTime, what's going on? Thank you for trying to get people to like and sub. More Amazon? I don't think that's a bad play. The reason why, so let me just put this in perspective. The reason why I have Amazon and Google, because my top 5 positions right now, actually, I know what my top 4 is. I have to find out what my 5th position is now that I sold Shell. But, well, I guess if you were to, my share-based compensation would have me sway this, but excluding share-based compensation, you have Rocket Lab, number 1, Palantir, number 2. Shell is no longer in the top 5 because I sold it. And then you have Amazon and Google. What the 5th position is, I don't know. I really don't. It might be Bitcoin, honestly. I've about a Bitcoin. I don't have a whole Bitcoin, but I have about a Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you were to consider that, but if it was a stock, I don't know. I'd have to go and double check. There's a lot of positions in the $25,000 to $45,000 range. So, is there other positions in the 50? I don't know. But yeah, I'd have to double check on that piece because I am kind of curious where that goes. But the reason why I invest in those companies is because I think the reason why I invest in Amazon and Google specifically is I think they can get to $5 trillion. I have like a firm vision. And so my thought process was, hey, if I am going to put money into something, I want it to at least double. And so when I put my money into Google, it was 80 something bucks a share, 90 bucks a share. I think my cost basis now is like 100 bucks a share. I was like, you know what? I think this thing's going to go to 5 trillion. So to me, I thought that would be a position where it would get me at least to $150,000. And I was like, all right, you get a couple of these things where you put, 50 grand and you think it's going to double, triple. You get a bunch of things to go to $150,000, then you're sitting fat and happy, right? So you have Amazon, Google, Palantir's obviously above that now. It's close to 200. Rocket Lab's over 200 grand. So you start to have some of these things and you sell them, in my opinion, put them in the S&P 500, wait for the next thing. And it's not to say that I will sell Amazon or Google. It's just like, I'll wait and see when the time comes. I still think that there's growth opportunities there. I think they're growing massively. still. So it just doesn't make sense for me to sell them right now. But that's the reason why they're there, is I think they have a lot of forward potential. When's Vegas? I'm going in mid-November. I know there's a group of people going mid-November or early November. I may or may not make it. Yeah, trying to convince Big Dick McWest to join 100%. What's going on? I don't know how to say your name. RNTY. Right now, thank you, one. I'll just call you that. Yes, cheaper oil until the conflict rises. That's unfortunately what's going on. Is Matt doing a live Rocket Lab special on the 11th? I will be home from work, so I wouldn't be surprised if I do that. I won't be surprised. Lisa, what's going on? Yeah, I will try to get to Vegas. We'll see. We will see. I feel bad because I know a lot of people are going, but at the same time, I'm like, I look at those things as business opportunities, and if not many people on a business perspective are going, then, no offense, I would love to spend time with you guys, but I like to get business done when I go on vacation. Robotaxi, Tesla may keep running. It might. I'm curious to see what happens with that on Thursday. Katie, what's going on, my guy? Hopefully things are going well. Let's see. Oh, am I rerunning stuff or just am I behind on the chat? Let's see. John Blake, what's going on, my guy? Hope things are going well. I do need eye drops. I don't know what the heck is going on with these contacts. Yes, Fool's Gold. Buenas noches, mi amigo. How are things going? I appreciate your messages, by the way. Keep sending them. It gets me fired up. Am I going to start gaming? I don't know if I'm going to start gaming this time around, but I have in the past. What's going on, Hot Chris? Hope things are going well. I am like 10 minutes behind. So insights that you provide, but I don't like is your long presentations of an hour plus in length. After a half hour, I lose interest. Hey, man. I mean, the reason why I made that one for Rocket Lab specifically was because I get so many questions about it. And people just want, obviously, as you're kind of alluding to, the like 2-sentence answer. And there is no 2-sentence answer. Do you want to know about the company or not? And the answer is, if you want to do your due diligence on the company and you think it's a generational opportunity that can make you literally a once in a lifetime opportunity in terms of wealth, it's worth putting an hour's time into. And so to me, I put that together, obviously not for somebody like you, because you don't want to spend the time, but there's an hour's worth of content. It's not like I'm talking in circles for that hour. That is literally like this. It's literally like a fucking university course. It's not the best university course. It's probably like what are those online courses? Online university. It's probably like an online university course. It's not like I'm a master aeronautical engineer or anything explaining a lot of these things, but it's explaining the entire business of Rocket Lab, and I do that for a lot of other companies as well. So I appreciate it. You don't like it, I'm not here to pump up stocks and make you feel good. I'm here to make you money. So, in that respect, I appreciate your feedback. But at the end of the day, I made that because I get DMs time after time. What does Rocket Lab do? What does Rocket Lab do? What does Rocket Lab do? What does this company do? What does that company do? And to me, I've only put something in my portfolio most of the time if I've done a lot of due diligence. And so that's just the type of investor I am. So I might not be for you if that's the case, which is fine. You remember seeing me on Independent Investor? Yes. Ryan is a good friend of the channel. Ryan's a great guy. Can you explain what Neutron is? It's the competitor to the Falcon 9 in simplest form. There's a lot of information in the 1-hour video that people don't like on my channel. So if you're interested, there's a large discussion on that, what specifically is a Neutron. But Neutron is going after the Falcon 9, which is SpaceX's main vehicle. So it's going to be a main competitor to that. Did I ever do DD on BLND? I did not do too much. I've kept trying to dive into it, and I just, for some reason, can't understand where the value is. So I'm not saying it's done. I'm not saying I won't. I just will say, and I'm glad you brought this up. There's a lot of things that I anticipated would happen when we started seeing rate cuts, and they still might. But I thought it would be easy to invest in something like TLT and just kind of coast for the next year. And unfortunately, what I didn't recognize is things moved ahead faster than I was expecting in terms of the underlying 10-year, the underlying 20-year. And so with that, not to say in November, December, that'll change again. But in the short term, I'm wrong, right? I assumed TLT was a good place to store money. So it still might be. I'm fairly confident that rates are aiming towards higher right now. And what's going to end up happening is something's going to happen. Something's going to break that we didn't see. And with that, we're probably going to end up with more rate cuts in the short term than we were expecting. But for right now, right now it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Mitigated with what's going on in the interest rate realm right now. Let's see. Joe Rogan. Mr. Proto, need your Needers of Steel. Feeling my Palantir are going to get scary this week with a strike of 41 for Friday. Had to roll from 39.50. Dude, that happens. I'm still fighting the low to mid 30s ones that I have. So hopefully they plan out well. We got some good people chatting back and forth. Awesome to see. Love the camaraderie. Fit, you're the man, dude. 2 a.m. What's going on, my guy? Good to see you in Chris's Discord chat earlier. Let me see. Are things dropping? Let's see if things are now dropping. Things can change. I'm still seeing things flat-ish now. Still seeing things flat on the futures. I don't know how delayed these are, though. But I'm seeing things as flat. Mid-Michigan, my guys. Dude, high flyers. All right, let's see if I can run. For Discord Patreon, I appreciate that. It was nice to see you, Midwest. Oh, nice to just okay. Never mind. Yes, I thought you guys know each other. I was about to say Midwest, my guy. Dude, love to hear that. Taking dogs to the park, living the dream. Does it come with a Maddie's members only jacket? I'd contemplate it. I would contemplate it. I'll maybe that's part of the benefit. I'll start stripping, and you guys have to tip in order to get the clothes back on. People are not liking the Spirit trade. Yeah. Junebug, the love of my life. Someone should save Spirit Airlines. You never know. Sometimes those are the best trades if you're able to seek them out. But sometimes, bankruptcy is bankruptcy. So sometimes they come out on the other side. Sometimes they don't. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I waited the whole time. Let's see. I'm flashing it up on screen because I'm literally blind. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting closer and closer to the end, I think. For NVIDIA last week was 128. Slid out safely. Yeah, man. I'm right at the money at this point. I think I have a 124. I'm like, at this point, I've made money enough on NVIDIA where I'm like, I don't know. If it keeps going up, I'm gonna be knocking on 64, huh? I'll be okay. Dude, Mike Walder, what's going on, my guy? Answer my DMs. Just kidding. Midwest, you're the man. Junebug, not buying or selling much? You should always be buying. Midwest. Melanie, good to see you. Good to see you. Never know when to expect a Matt live. Regular schedule would be fantastic. Unfortunately, I work a lot. So I know it's very funny. Like a lot of people try to compare, like, man, it'd be great if you had like a regular schedule. It's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be at the office at like 8 o'clock at night. So I appreciate that. It would be nice, but I do work for a living. I'm not trying to be mean here, but I haven't decided to go full time YouTube. That's part of the reason why, like, when I was talking about the membership thing, it's like if I do the membership thing and that expands enough, but it's like putting the cart before the horse. It's like I could double down and do like a membership thing once a week or something like that and hope that people show up. But at the same time, it's like my bread and butter is my 9 to 5 job. So like probably 100x, maybe more. Like I make 100 times more at my 9 to 5 job than I do on YouTube. So unfortunately, doesn't make sense. I try to do the Tuesdays and Thursdays with Cashflow Chronicles, but something always happens, and we always end up. And by something, I mean Chris Patel. Just kidding, Chris. But I'll either be going and doing international travel, or Chris has something that comes up, and so it just ends up getting delayed. But we try to do our best to do 2 a week on that. Yeah, I'm still showing a gain on the futures. November 7th to 12th is Vegas meetup. Email hotjune@gmail.com. Got to reschedule, my guy. Got to represent Woodlands, man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, anybody that's interested in going to Vegas it's generally, I would say, people that follow me, Chris Patel, Amit, TJ. There's a lot of people in there. So if you're interested, people that are in the community that always show up to everybody's lives, that's the spot. Junebug's got it, so make sure to email her. Enjoy life outside of the stock market. Agreed. That's why you're doing it, right? I talk about objective a lot. Why are you doing it? Get your time back. You're doing it to better your future generations. It's like kind of counterintuitive. I see a lot of people like, I'm doing it for my family, and then they like shut out their family and like only talk about the stock market or this or that. So yeah, always get out. Always get out. Always appreciate the detail. Yes, sometimes people invest on an Instagram reel. It's nice to get the attention from an Instagram reel, but to invest strictly off an Instagram reel, I don't know. It's tough. What would make me sell out of Palantir if it went to like $65 today? My fear is with Palantir is with everything, and I know there's a super chat down here, and I just don't want to go. Let me just click on it. So, Fool's Gold, thank you for the $20, my guy. Much would take it off. Jesus Christ. I didn't want to go down to it because then it would get me out of where I'm at in the comments section, and then I'd have to come back. But there's a little pop-up thing that I can just click on. But no, we're keeping the close on today. So if you want your $20 back, just message me on Twitter. I'll be happy to Venmo you back. My fear with investing or selling out of things early is this. I've invested in many of things that have done well. Union Pacific is one that comes to mind. Hershey is another that comes to mind, where I'm like, ooh, this is short term, overbought, and it's going to go back down, and I sell it. And then, like I said, I don't, this could be an organizational thing that I could do better, but most of the time I'm working. And so it's hard for me to keep track of, say, more than like 10 or 15 tickers at a time. So what'll end up happening is once I sell, it kind of becomes, oh, I've made my money. It's in the back. So it might be ticker number 20 or 25 that I'll search on a regular basis. Next thing you know, the time for it where it pulls back, because generally speaking, you'll see things come in waves, right? The price will move in waves, and that's people moving into the stock, out of the stock. A hedge fund made their money, or they're getting out, they're rotating out of the sector, what have you. So see the ups and downs. So something like a Hershey or Union Pacific, I remember very bluntly, very vividly. I mean, the short-term price target was X. I sold. I was like, okay, 15% pullback or whatever, I'll buy back in. 15% pullback comes. I don't notice it. It goes. Next thing you know, it's back at the price that it was, and I missed the opportunity to enter back in. So my fear is with Palantir is there would have to be a substantial enough reason that it's overvalued where I could sell and recognize, play it like a hawk, that I know it's going to be pulling back, not like an inkling, but And so something like $65 today, right? Something could come out tomorrow, or something could come out during the earnings report, though. And you see that it goes to the 35% year over year revenue growth that people are expecting. If that's the case and it warrants the $40 price and it's at $35, 35% year over year growth, it's like, well, you went from, a couple of quarters ago, 12 to 15% year over year growth to now 35%. What's to say they won't go to 40% going into 2025, right? So it gets you to think, like, now if you start to see revenue growth only in like the low 20s or something, and the price is $40, then, it gets you to warrant, like, do I want to play this short-term game of buy, sell, buy, sell? I would also have to pay about $15,000 to $20,000 in capital gains, and that's long-term capital gains, right? So to me, I make a lot of that money based off of just selling short-term covered calls. Now, right now, I'm underwater on those, but my thought process is it either flatlines or retraces back to the norm, where I think Palantir should really trade, which is probably the low 30s, maybe the mid 30s. Is in the short term, my portfolio won't take a hit, right? Because I still have all that value right now sitting in a covered call. So it's interesting. It's very interesting how some of those things work. But Rocket Lab, it's just, people are like, "Ooh, you made 100%. Like, let me sell." It's like, it's tough, right? It's like, you might think that there's a pullback, but we're literally getting in the precipice of being within 6 months of like a launch. And not only that, but there's going to be news releases. There's going to be wet dress rehearsals. There's going to be mock buildups. There's going to be news that comes out between now and 9 months from now, when they try to launch the rocket, that is going to get people fired up. And so who's to say that it's going to stay at $8 or $9 or $10 for Rocket Lab? That's tough. You don't like the 1 hour, can you please do 2? And I don't mean to like literally, like, don't give any hate to the person. It was just like, my videos might not be for you, and that is okay. Like, it goes back to something I always talk about. Chris Patel said this on Amit's channel last night, and he also reiterated it today. Sam did a good job reiterating it today during the call. I'm very much a person about, and most of the time, big institutions, when you start investing with them, they'll give you this info note, but you don't know what you don't know. And there's so much to learn that you read it, you're like, okay, cool. And then you like throw it to the side. But it really matters. It's these 5 key things that I always talk about: objective, time horizon, risk tolerance, how active or passive you want to be in the investment, and how much money you adding every single month. Because depending on what you say for each of those 5 things might mean that something fits or doesn't fit into your strategy, right? And so that's something that's very important to answer truthfully to yourself, because I think a lot of times what we end up doing is we see Matt's 33, he's got a couple mil in the bank, he knows what he's doing, let me just copy what Matt's doing. And so you might copy me, but just very much like what I did with Rocket Lab, and I bought in at, let's say, $4 or $5 cost basis. I, for some reason, could change a heart, and something could come out in an earnings report. I don't think this is going to happen, but something could come out where it's like, look, Rocket Lab isn't as real as they thought. It was all CGI. They didn't launch 53 rockets. And you're like, oh shit, I hit the sell button. You might not necessarily be there watching me. You have your own life. You have other people that you're watching. That's fine. So it just gets you to understand, whenever you enter something, you really need to do the due diligence and understand, Matt's doing it, that's cool, but that's right for Matt. It's not right for me, right? So you might be sitting there like, I really like the dividend stuff, and so I have plenty of things that I like for dividends that I have in the back of my mind, products that I'll eventually invest in, especially if I get to a place where I get double or triple amount the money I have right now. I'm probably going to set aside, about $1 million in some sort of dividend fund, just to make sure that I have that cash flow. Because eventually for me, it's going to be about monthly cash flow. Because as much as net worth helps, the cash flow is what allows you to, on a monthly basis, move things around. Like I was literally talking about it with my sister earlier. There's literally things that I'm going to do in the short term just to help with cash flow so that I can free up, and buy some things in the short term for 800, 900, $1,000 a month. And then in the long term, I'll sell those things, right? It's complex and, but, you know, you only know your portfolio, right? And that's what I'm trying to get at is like, you only know your objectives. You only know your risk tolerance. You only know what's going on. You don't know what my mortgage payment, like going back to me, I could be doing things for what seems like the stock market, but in reality, I'm going to be doing something to fund my real estate portfolio. So you might be thinking I'm making a move to do something for my stock money. And this is exactly what I was talking about. In the short term, I'm doing X, which is going to help my stock portfolio. But in the long term, it's actually going to help my real estate portfolio for cash flow reasons, right? So you might not be in that situation. So to try to copy me doesn't make sense because it works for me right now. It doesn't work for you. That's why there's so many different products out there. Some of it is because we're all greedy bastards and we want management fees, etc. But some of it's for legit reasons. An annuity might make sense for somebody. It might not make sense for me at 33 years old. It's just, a reverse mortgage might make sense for somebody who's 60, 65, never saved for retirement, but they have a lot of money and equity in their house. They don't have any heirs or anything like that to give the house value to, but they still want to live for the next 20, 30 years. So they might do a reverse mortgage, but a reverse mortgage doesn't work for me, right? It's like, what's another one perfect example. People talk to me about this all the time. They're like, oh, well, what, like, isn't like, why is Rocket Lab's Electron good versus the Falcon 9 or the Heavy or something like that? It's like, does everyone drive a school bus to work? Probably not, right? Like, I drive an SUV. You might sit there and be like, why would you drive an SUV? I could just drive a sedan. Some of you might be like, I could bike to work. Maybe your office is only a mile away and you want a bike. So you might say, well, why would I spend 30 grand on a car if I could buy a nice bike to work? Right? It doesn't matter. Everybody has different situations where they're going to invest differently. They're going to structure things differently. I'm 33. So I might invest something that is a little bit more risky versus somebody that's 60, 65 that, already has a couple $1 million. They don't need the risk. They just kind of need to make sure that they sustain that $2 to $3 million portfolio. So it really, there's no one size fits all for investing is what I'm trying to say. So just because I'm not selling Rocket Lab, just because I'm not selling Palantir right here. TLT, that's a good one. In the short term, I think, it might have taken a hit, but short term, man, I think it'll be fine. Long term might be a different story. Midwest, man, myth and the legend. Is it okay to hold QQQ in your Roth and nothing else? That's up to you, man. The thing that I dislike about the Qs, which I think people are like, oh, the Qs are great versus the S&P 500. You should hold both. The thing that I love about the Qs is that I feel like in times where the market's really hot, it's going to run great. The problem that I have with the Qs is there's no profitability clause in it like the S&P 500 has. So the S&P 500 says all these stocks are profitable. If they're not over the past trailing 12 months, they're out. The Qs doesn't have that. The NASDAQ 100 doesn't have that. So you can invest in companies that are super speculative, super volatile. And so I guess it really just depends, right? And so that's the problem why I've never really liked the Qs per se, is I actually do really like the NASDAQ 100. I invest in the triple leverage NASDAQ 100. But it's one of those things right now where it's like, would I want to be in the NASDAQ 100 or the NASDAQ right now and market highs? No. Would I be okay in the SPY? Yes. And it's for that reason of guaranteeing profitability because you get voted in versus the NASDAQ 100 is strictly market cap weighted. You could be in the SPY and be the number 2 stock. Remember, Tesla entered as like the number 4 or 5 stock in the NASDAQ the SPY, the S&P 500. And that was because they were growing $400-500 billion company at the time, even close to $1 trillion. And they hadn't had more than like 24 months of consistent profitability. They would have profitability one quarter, the next quarter they would go negative. They'd have profitability, and then it took them quite some time for them to actually get to the point where they had 4 quarters consistently of profitability. And so in that respect, it entered ahead of like 450 other companies, 470 other companies under the SP 500. So it just goes to show you. Meanwhile, if it was in the NASDAQ the whole time. So it just goes to show you, back again, different strokes for different folks. Ally, let's see. So let's go. I might end this. Holy, if I can get up to speed, I'm like 15 minutes behind. I'm always a share guy because who knows, right? Like you could buy leaps and anticipate that what you know today is concrete, but it's rocket science. They could easily say, oh, this small thing happened. We have to push another year. And you can't do anything about it. Next thing you know, you're just going to be sitting on. Elon's at the Steelers game. That makes sense. Because he was just at. He was just in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I remember that. Fool's Gold, thank you again for this, man. I really appreciate you. You made September one of the best months I've had in a very long time. You and Curtis. I haven't had. It ended up being probably 2.5 to 3 times better than most months that I have on YouTube, and it was all because of you two. So I really appreciate you both. It makes things a lot of fun when you're able to see a little bit of love and appreciation. It's a lot of fun. Not saying that you have to do more of it. I appreciate what you've done. Don't feel obligated to do any more. But it's a lot of fun. That's why I'm doing these live streams again. Like I recognize I'm like, man, and I've been meaning to over the past few days. I just for some reason haven't been able to get to the computer to do it. Yesayer, don't know if I've seen you before. Welcome. 113% the green. Congratulations, man. Congrats on you having the conviction to buy. That's all I can say. Congratulations. So Cold, what's going on, my guy? Boba. If I were to sell long dated calls, what price? It depends what long dated are. The reason why I don't like long dated is because you could sell multiple short terms. And this is one thing. I guess it really depends on what the plan is. So for like pounds here, you could sell, let's just say like for example, a $40 like 2026 or 2027, and then just wait for it to drop back down to like the low 30s and buy it back. But if you're actually waiting for like expiry, I don't like to do long dated. So INQ, no, I saw somebody talk about it the other day. I know that people think it's a generational sort of thing. I haven't done enough due diligence. Any news on BFRG? Not sure what that is. Don't want to lose your NVIDIA. Hey, man, you have a low cost basis, though, so congratulations on the wins on that. Nice. No, I do. Chris actually, I'd heard about the actual plant itself, but I didn't know that it was publicly traded. So up until about a year ago, that was Chris, but I'm fully on board with that one as well. That's in there. That's like a $25,000 position for me right now as well. And I think that one, it could go. It could go, especially if there's share buybacks in the future. It could go. Poe looks good. Most advanced manufacturer of Lightspeed communication devices. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So good luck with that one. Not a problem. Don't make dollars. Doesn't make sense. Agree with that. Smiles from Hot June. Ooh, won't be in Hawaii. Little humble brag. No, I'm just kidding. How is Ethereum doing? Because it used to be the darling, and then it took even more of a hit. Ooh, it's still. Ooh. That honestly might be a play. I actually should probably buy more Ethereum. But this one from the peak earlier this year, it's down about 40%, maybe a little bit less, 35%. That's tough. Got bills to pay. See, yeah, some people got bills. They can't put all their money away, I get it. What do I do for a living? I'm a petroleum engineer by education, and now I guess my title is technically a portfolio analyst. But um, before that, for 10, 11 years, I was a reservoir engineer, which is a subset of petroleum engineering, and it's for one of the super major oil and gas companies. If you're really interested in what I do, you can look me up on LinkedIn. The thing about selling stocks is you can always buy back in. That's the truth. You can set a buy order, absolutely, or a put order as well. Mr. Pimp Matt, what do you invest? Why do you invest? What net worth are you aiming for to retire yourself? I'll never fully retire. I'll always be doing something, whether that's Airbnbs or whatever, but I will slow down maybe in the stock market. And I might more so work in like a separate business. But I would say that the current medium term goal remains the same. So I'd say I'm tracking well to hit that. So I'm about 20% of the way there, maybe a little less than 20%. But as we know, the market can go pretty wild in a matter of a couple of years. That 20% can go to 60% really quick. So I don't know, especially if like Rocket Lab takes off, like Palantir, Rocket Lab continue to persist, and something like NEXT takes off. Like if I get 3 for 3 on those, then that's pretty insane. And and SoFi, like I have some things in there that like if they take off, it really helps eat some big chunks away. And we're not talking about like 10%, 20%. I mean, maybe Rocket Lab will be 10%, 20%. And that might be tough. It'll be percentages here and there. So like you just get a couple percentages away. Like for example, SoFi doubling for me, tripling for me would be eating away at like 6% of whatever number I'm looking at, right? So yeah. Retire is a tough one because I'll always do something. But I guess if you mean retire, like leaving the 9 to 5, I really like my 9 to 5 right now. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I have a renewed sense of passion for it. I really like being a portfolio analyst. It's a little bit different than reservoir engineering. That's all I'll say about that. But it's been a lot of fun. The whole 12 years has been fun since I'm, I guess, 11, 12 years. But I haven't had a reason to hang up my work boots yet. There was a quick time in 2021 when I was like literally printing money, selling options and stuff like that. And to be fair, if I wanted to get that risky with the portfolio again, I probably could. It's just that I just feel like there's a little bit more of a nest egg that I would want to grow before I were to want to do that. And that was just a crazy time overall. Like everything was locked down, and I was working from home a lot. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it from like Thailand or the Philippines or something like that. And so yeah, or Bali. So, but then going back into the office, that makes a little bit changed up. But let's see if I can. Yeah, so there's also taxes. So if I could sell, Mike K, what's going on? If I could sell a little bit and covered calls and make enough money. But yeah, I mean, if pounds, like I said, if things went way up, it doesn't make sense. It's worth paying the taxes. What I think about Apple, I can never sense to buy Apple because of the iPhone thing, but obviously that's been a huge opportunity cost for me not to invest. So I'm probably a bad person to ask on that one. I'm impressed with a lot of things about Rocket Lab. Peter Beck is the moat, dude. Yeah, it's one of those. So we were talking about that on Palantir Weekly. Like, what would we do if Carp unfortunately passed or like stepped down? Like, what do you do? Do I add more SCHD ahead of the split? I don't think the split's really going to have much of a change. Shout out to 136 of you. Please subscribe so you can participate in the chat. Really appreciate that. 136 is like numbers that we see on Cashflow Chronicles. So the fact that you guys are just chiming in, especially during the primetime football game, it's insane. I might call it here just so we can watch together. Wouldn't have a problem with that. Just add research, put it all into Tesla or Rocket Lab. Nothing wrong with that. Should do a raffle and legally adopt one of us. Yes. Maddie going to the Darth side. Yes, I'm full porting TSLY. Dude, the amount of money I would make from TSLY would be pretty insane. But then I would see my portfolio volume and value go down pretty substantially. But I do think about that as well. Like for example, somebody asked earlier. Well, and I said I have dividend stocks in mind, right? This is what I have in mind for it, which is XYLG. So year to date, keep in mind we're at like 21% returns on the SPY year to date. This is at 13%, 14%. So about half where we're at with the SPY, but it pays way more out in dividends. It's kind of sporadic, so it doesn't give you like an exact. It says 1% here, but if I remember correctly, it was like 4.5 to 5% dividend yield. So you're getting 50% of the SPY returns, and you're getting 3 times to 4 times as much in SPY dividends. So pick and choose. The only problem with these is like you could see that when the market pulls back, in August, July timeframe, when we pulled back pretty hard. There's not a lot of safety to the downside. So you'll end up over the long term underperforming. So you can see, like, even though like we're back at basically the all-time highs that we were in 2021, we're almost back to that point. So during these large pull downs, it's pretty tough. So, I'm not saying I'm going to put all my money into it, but what I will do, and I think in the case if I get hit by a bus, I've had in my will to, with my sisters, I said, put about 70% of my money, 75% of my money into, 70% of my money into SPY, 25% of my money into XYLG, and then 5% into TQQQ, which is triple leverage NASDAQ 100. And I said, feel free to balance every year the SPY and XYLG to be about 75-25%. But I said, don't ever rebalance the TQQQ unless it goes over 25% of the total value of the total portfolio. So let's just say it's $1 million. That means, $50,000 in TQQQ, about $25,000 in XYLG, $250,000 in XYLG, $700,000 in SPY. And so unless for some reason TQQQ went up to $250,000 and the rest of the portfolio stayed the same, flatlined, don't rebalance. But I said, always kind of rebalance the XYLG and SPY so you can get the dividend, right? So I said, never spend the principal, only spend the dividends. So that was kind of my thoughts is that. And so my hope is that, if anything happened to me, I don't have any children at the moment. So, they would be able to live on through that and it will continue to grow and they'll still get money, but they can't blow it. And I've seen firsthand, people legitimately just blow money and just spend it on stupid stuff. People, in all honesty, don't know how to manage money very well, especially when it comes to money that comes from windfalls of family members dying and stuff like that. Generally speaking, it's very emotional for them and they don't know how to spend it. And they also don't want to lose it because they view it like, oh my God, this person died. If it goes to there's any risk associated with it, if I see any red, it's not going to be any good. ASPN, I don't know what that is. All the best to you for investing in it. Let's see. Understand not to copy trade the situation you described, but that's different than joining up in a Patreon. As long as I don't blame you if you lose my money, I'm good with borrowing your conviction. Yes and no. I mean, I don't want people to blindly. Yeah, it's still like I don't want a 65-year-old man being like, I'm going full port Rocket Lab. Like, you know what I mean? Even if they join a Patreon or not, maybe I'm not fully understanding. ACHR, I have not looked at ACHR. Hospitals are rationing fluid bags. I think people are underestimating the economic impact of the hurricane. I agree, and we're about to have another one. Please be safe, everyone in Florida. And I know North Carolina is very terrible as well, so my heart goes out to everybody there. My aunt has a place there. Fortunately, she's not there, but I know the people in the area. Her project managers and everything. had to get evacuated. So you're in my thoughts. It's awful to hear. And I did we had a group chat with a community that my mom lives in, and I used to have on the weekends. They bought a place in central Pennsylvania, and we were just chit chatting about politics and stuff. And I said, by the way, the local VFW is putting together a rally to bring some trucks to send to North Carolina. And so I sent a couple $100, and my mom sent me some of the pictures, what she buy. I didn't really look too much into what she bought, but let me see. My mom I just texted my mom. Where the hell is her messages? What the heck? Where's my mom's messages? Okay, that was weird. I'd have been upset. I want to keep these messages. So she bought, looks like, some Cheerios. I don't really know what that is. But a bunch of like applesauce, other stuff, peanut butter, some other canned foods that are not perishable. So kudos to mom. Yeah, I Venmo'd her a couple $100 and she did it on my behalf. Because otherwise it's hard, right? Because I'm in Texas. So it's like if they're organizing it, what do I do, right? So anyway, a lot of deals in the market. I agree. Some stuff are always out of favor. Yeah, JD, he's gotten a lot better than what I was expecting for sure. So I have a small options trading account. I have a large options trading account. It's specifically cover calls. I don't buy a lot of options or puts or calls. I mostly just sell. Jill, what's going on? I think we have a pullback 1 year anniversary tomorrow, Israel conflict, and it's still ramping up. Agreed. October is historically pretty red. So, do I think Orsted is a good buy? I saw my Seeking Alpha article. I think in the long term, let me see where it's at. It's been a while since I've looked at it. $20. I think it'll probably be okay here. Maybe wait for a little bit more of a pullback. But I think in the long term, I think that if anybody's running well, I think it's Orsted. I think the problem that what happened with Orsted is that everybody and their mom was getting involved in renewables. And so there's a lot of push for them to really double down and really focus on investing in the business. And what ended up happening was there was a little bit of a pendulum swing in the shareholders, so Vanguard, BlackRock, etc. And so I think that they were more like, maybe instead of delivering as much as you can, deliver at pace and don't get so much into debt. But overall, I think it's a good company. I think you'll be there. I think offshore wind isn't going anywhere from my thought process. I think it's only going to get more and more unless there's a big pendulum swing for the Green New Deal and the Paris Agreement that happened in 2015. I think we're behind. If you ask me, it was very aggressive to begin with. And because it was aggressive, I think we're behind. So I think you'll see a lot of offshore wind off South Korea, as it already has, Japan. So offshore wind, I think it will continue to be. What do you think of Coupang? I actually talked to Chris Patel about this one, and I'm actually I did some initial research, and I was hoping to use Chris as kind of like, hey, why don't I invest in this? And he wasn't really interested. And I think I was looking at it when it was like 23.24. So the fact that it's 24.72 isn't too bad. It pulled back down to $20, so I probably should have initiated there. So over the past month, it's up 4. Over the past 3 months, it's up like 17. So yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it's interesting. What I want to see flesh out for the next couple of quarters, they bought like a UK brand, I think, to incorporate. So it's very interesting, very different than how Amazon works. It's same, but different. how Amazon works. So I'm kind of curious to see how it pans out. So I might wait a couple more quarters. But it's one of those things where it's like I've looked at it and will I forget about it? Like I haven't looked at it in 4 or 5 months. Will I forget about it again? And that's one of the things where I'm like afraid to sell a stock for that reason. Options question for you. I want to sell cover calls, and I wouldn't be upset if they get executed. But my question is, can I pick to sell the high cost shares instead of? Oh, I don't know. I don't ever really get my shares called away most of the time. I normally write contracts super far out, and before they get to expiry, I always roll because I like to keep the ball in the air because I'm more so about getting the premium than like actually selling. And every time I've done it, I've never done a partial sell. I've always done like the whole thing. So if I have 900 some shares, I'm running on 900 shares. I'm not writing on 700 shares, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you. We got some infrastructure plays. I don't really deal with so much with that. Do you sit for PE? I can sit for the PE, but I do not. I sat for the initial, what was it, the FE, the fundamental engineering exam. And I thought about doing the PE, and I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe it would work if I'm planning on being here for long, but I'm like 50-50 whether or not I go off into business for myself or if I keep working. It's still many years away. Like I wouldn't leave today unless something happened. Like unfortunately I would get laid off, which I don't foresee happening, but there's always a possibility. And so when people are like, like, it's like oil price is actually very important for me and important for my 9 to 5. Like people like kind of, I think because I talk about stocks all the time, they think I'm just like trying to make a trade. It's like, no, I live and breathe oil prices and it doesn't look good. Like the environment right now does not look good. So when I look at it from like a bearish perspective, it's not like Matt's just going out on a whim to like try to make $1. Like when I say bearish, it means it's actually going to be strenuous for my 9 to 5. And I'm going to unfortunately have to say goodbye to people because they're probably going to lose their jobs. So I don't take like saying oil price being bearish lightly. So I think it's pretty funny when people are like, you're effing wrong, man. And I'm like, I might be, I hope I am. But I see a lot of inklings pointing towards stuff that I've seen before. So let's see. Where would I? Have you ever had issues due to using your real name online and being fairly public about your wealth? No, and that's part of the reason why I've stopped sharing as much as I have. So I used to share a lot about exactly the amount of shares that I buy, and I would have like the tracker up, and you guys would see like the pie charts of, like, for example, I have a whole spreadsheet that I keep track of everything in, because while you get a decent view of these things, when you invest in certain companies, invest in like Fidelity and stuff like that, you don't see certain things. So for example, let me see if it'll show up. I don't know why it's taking forever. Why is it being weird? Yeah, so this is just a bunch of percentages. So let me zoom in here. So for example, like I used to show all the dollar signs and damn it. Let me scroll one. There we go. So I'll show you this. So I used to show every video that I used to make on my YouTube channel. You can go back and look. I used to show this. But there's a lot of stuff to the left that shows a lot of granularity. How much dividends I'm making per sector, what kind of average dividends am I making, what's my yield on cost, what money's in real estate, what money's in this, what money's in that. So there's a lot that I used to share. And the more public I got, the more I was like, there's literally like, why am I sharing things that literally have millions of dollars? And unfortunately, like I'm making like $100 a month. Like the risk reward to that. Um, it'd be one thing if I'm making like 20, 30 grand a month and people are really eating it up. But it's like the first foremost is like people would tell me I'm lying. People would tell me there's no fucking way. And I'm like, dude, like to keep up this lie for like 6 or 7 years. And like, I mean, I guess Bernie Madoff has done something like that, but like, if I was lying, like, I would have been like, yep, I took it from like 100 grand to 10 million. Like, I'm not like, hey, like I worked my ass off for the past 10 years to get to like a couple million. Like, it was pretty funny, the commentary that I would get. So I stopped sharing a lot of stuff. In fact, like the day that I hit $1 million, which was like early 2022, I was like, yep, this is the last day that I share the fact that I shared literally everything online, and I was like, it's just not worth it. So like for people to know how much I have in this account versus that account versus another account, I was like, it's not worth it. So I think the big thing that I try to do is separate, the fact that like I don't talk about what I do 9 to 5. And I try to decouple who I work for with my YouTube and everything like that. I don't want to be a representative of that particular business. I've never been asked to be a representative of that business, and so my fear is I just don't want to overshare, because the last thing I want is them to be like, we're afraid from a security perspective. You might say something that shows up negative, and it's like, well, I've never said that, I work for X, Y, and Z company. People have found out, but I don't publicly disclose that for that particular reason. So thoughts on nuclear? I like nuclear. I think nuclear is underrepresented in our current infrastructure. I'm actually very upset that Europe has taken the stance that nuclear is something that's bad. The only ones that haven't really is France. So I get it, because of the natural disaster that happened with Fukushima in 2012. I get why some of the European companies took that stance. But to me, it's like Japan has natural disasters. There's not a lot of natural disasters that happen in Europe. Maybe I could see something if you're like off the North Sea, like on the coast of the North Sea, where things can get pretty wild. But like if you're in inland Germany, I don't think there's many natural disasters that happen in Germany. I could be wrong, but so anyway, I just thought it was a little bit interesting. So to me, I like to see the resurgence of nuclear, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. Let's see. What about when Palantir doubles again? I mean, it all depends on if it doubles tomorrow. I'd probably sell some, but it depends on when it and how long it takes. Am I just rolling my Palantir until you make your cost basis back? I don't really have a thought. I'm just probably going to keep rolling it until my shares don't hopefully ever get called away. I mean, my hope is that I'm able to consistently roll it, get a little bit more premium, from it. But generally what ends up happening is I roll it, get a little bit more premium, get a little breathing room, and then the stock has continued to rise. So it's actually kind of a shame, because I thought about actually taking and buying back before it got included in the S&P 500. I was actually thinking about buying them back and just eliminating them, and then waiting for a couple months to like see if it calmed down. And unfortunately, this has gone on this massive run. So I'm just confident that I'm not so far. Like I'm not $20. I'm not $15. I'm at 33 and 34 or something like that. So my confidence is, I just wait every couple weeks. I'll be able to raise it $1. And my hope is the share price eventually kind of rolls over a little bit, and I'm just slowly doing the opposite. So I think right now my break even on it was like 38.50. So technically I'm a little bit below that, or underwater on that. So I think come at the end of October I have to roll again. And if that's the case, hopefully I can get it to 35, 34. And if that's the case, I can continue to kind of step it up. So we'll see. In worst case scenario, it gets called away, and then I just write out the money, and if I'm underwater a little bit, maybe I won't be able to buy back as many shares, which kind of sucks. But um, yeah, I just want to make sure that I have about as many shares as I get. What's the number one thing that you would say aided you in hitting the $1 million mark? What suggestions? Consistency. I think a lot of people just assume you can add $1,000 into an account and get to $1 million. It's not the case. The easiest way to double your money is add another $1,000 to the account. And I don't think people think about that. They just say, "Ooh, I saved $1,000. Let me get to $1 million." It's like, no, it's like literally your money has to work half as hard. So if you take $1,000, you want to get to $1 million, you have to 1,000x your money. Literally, your money will have to go up 1,000 times. You have to add 3 zeros. It's very difficult to do. Versus if you just add another $1,000, your money only has to go up 500 times. To go from 1,000 to 2,000 in your account literally halves the amount of money your account has to work, which is pretty impressive, right? And same thing if you add another 1,000 to get to 3,000, you only have to 330 extra money. So you went just from that minor input, you literally had to decrease the amount of money decrease the amount of times your money has to work by threefold. And so if you're able to do that consistently and take bite-sized chunks out of it and have a millionaire mindset of, running your life like a business in that respect, then I think you'll do well. And I think it wasn't until I started to recognize that, run your life like a business. It's not, taking on debt isn't necessarily bad. I think a lot of people will say like, "Ooh, I can't have any debt. I don't want to do this. I want to do that." They'll buy cars in cash. It's like, why you like, let me take this out, for example. It's like, for a fact that car is going to be worth 70% less in 5 to 10 years. So why would you pay cash for that when you can put that cash into an asset that could go up 2 or 3 times in the matter of 5 to 10 years? Maybe not even 2 to 3 times, but just one time it goes up 1x in the next 5 to 10 years. It's like, I would much rather do that. And it's like, but you're gonna have to pay. It's like, regardless whether or not you rent a car, you're gonna be paying something. So it's like, if you can get reasonable rates on financing for your car, then go ahead and do it. And I think a lot of people are just afraid of debt. Like, it's like, debt is a great tool if you know how to use it appropriately. I'm using my debt appropriately, at least for now, unless I go belly up and bankrupt. But I bought 2 houses, and those houses are growing in appreciation. I guess I'm using this house. So instead of I could have bought this house cash. But why? Right? Like, I kept that money in the market, and instead of, yes, I'm paying, 7% interest rate on this house, 7.375, I guess, and I should refinance it here in the next year, fingers crossed. But in the meantime, instead of buying it cash, I am up 50, 60% in most of my brokerage accounts and retirement accounts this year. Not retirement, Roth, and my individual brokerage account. So just because I wanted to save 7%, save pennies, I would have lost all the dollars, right? So instead, I said, you know what? Okay, I'll borrow at 7%. I'll take a bite-sized chunk, and I'll put that money to work elsewhere. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. They think, like, they hear debt's bad. They hear Dave Ramsey. And it's like, I get it. If you're like somebody that can't be trusted with money, I get it. And Dave Ramsey, in his thoughts, have a time and place. But I would say, if you can manage your spending and you're not an idiot, and maybe it's easy for me because I'm a high earner. I worked really hard in college to be able to get the degree that I got. And, many late nights, 2, 3 a.m. in the library while others were partying. I was in the library, getting shit done. And Penn State was still a fun time, though, so don't get me wrong. But I didn't party as much as many others. And it got me into a good place when it came to getting a job. And I've been fortunate for that. But just, think of it like a business. Like, would you want to invest in a business that only has $1,000 and is only saving $1,000, or or only has $1,000 saved, and they're not saving anymore, and they're high into debt that's not generating any assets? Or do you want somebody that is managing their life like a business, has a lot of free cash flow that they're reinvesting back into the business? It's like, think of your life as a business. Which one do you want to invest in? Like, and think about companies that are, how do I say this? Think about companies that are not profitable as kids in college. You know, um, are they continuing to execute? Are they continuing to get better? Are they continuing to, do things that will eventually get them into profitability? Or are they kind of just like a complete crapshoot? And you're like, I don't know, maybe they'll do well, maybe they won't. It's very easy. I think a lot of people, to me, it's been, at least, if you're looking at some of these reports, to like cipher through and be like, what's bullshit, what's not. I don't know. I've lost on a few. Like, I'm not saying I'm a fucking oracle. I've lost on Wish. Somebody brought that up the other day. Wish, I lost like 40 grand on, maybe more, 50, maybe. This is one of those things where it's just like, you win some, you lose some. So, it really just depends. But I would say that's the biggest one, is like constant contributions. And 15%, they'll say 15%. That's not enough, in my opinion. 15% will have you working for 40 years. So, got RR for their small modular reactor nukes. It's done very well so far. Good luck, my guy. Yeah, I want to find the right one. It's hard. It's hard to find the right one. What about, dude, I'm not an options guy. Like, I respect you. I'm not trying to downplay it. It's just not my game. I don't buy sell options, or I don't buy puts or calls. I sell on companies that I want to own. I sell puts on companies I want to own, and I sell calls on the companies that I have. And I don't even sell them too close to the money most of the time. Like, the only reason why I'm in trouble with Palantir is because it's been on a massive run. Most of my companies, I'm able to buy back the calls, depending on what kind of span it is. Sometimes I sell weekly, sometimes I sell monthlies. So, I mean, God bless you. If you're having success in buying options, all the power to you, man. But it's just, generally speaking, it's not to say I don't buy some at all. It's just, most of the time it's not my game, taking the long term to the grave. Yeah, it's one of those things where I was like, I'll put 60 or 70 grand into it. If it goes to zero, it goes to zero. But honestly, I think I'll probably offload some of it, at least trim half of it, maybe, and put it into SPY and wait for the opportunity for it to pull back. Yes, it's very overwhelming. Like, it took me a good 18 months to get my feet feet on the ground after my dad had passed. And my brother had passed, a year, 18 months ahead of that. So my brother passed in 2020, and my mom died in 2021. My dad died in 2021. And thankfully my mom's still alive. We almost lost her, in 2022 because of what she was going through emotionally. So thankfully she's recovered. She's doing a lot better. But yeah, like, my brother, I was expecting, because he was doing some what's the word I'm looking for? Mischievous things, I guess. So it's not like he was shot. It's just, I was kind of expecting it for a while, but my dad was kind of sudden, even though he's older, not the best of health, but seemed healthy enough. So I was kind of surprised that he had passed. So yeah, that kind of definitely hit me. So I get it, but I can, generally speaking, decouple money and emotions very easily. So yeah, June, yeah, I hope you're doing better now. For a while it was really tough for me. So pullback would be nice, man. It could be nice. Have you watched the Trading Fraternity? I have not. Thoughts on ASML? I have not had any thoughts about it. Shop is amazing. Yeah, Shopify is great, man. Shopify is a good thing. I used to be a believer in Hyliion. Yes or no? What do you think of them? I'm very deep into them and very nervous. I I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I was never a big fan of Hyliion per se. I did buy, was it like Leaps or something? I had a friend. He said, you know what, Matt? He's like, just trust me, believe in me. I think it's a great opportunity. And so I think I bought like 4 or 5 grand of Leaps or something on it. And I was, I was hesitant to do it, but they talked me into it. And I think I sold at like 50% loss. I just was like, you know what? I don't see it. I didn't see it going in the right direction. So, no, it wasn't ever a big conviction play for me. But I know some people are still believers. Other than Palantir Spy, Rocket Lab, what's your favorite company and why? I mean, favorite's hard to say, right? Is it favorite because it's I think it's going to be the best return? Is it going to be really just depends. I'll tell you one company I'm really looking at right now is if I believe to get back involved into energy stocks is Total. I think they're doing phenomenal work. I'm really watching them on more ways than one, more than just the stock market side. And they're executing, they're doing well. I'll tell you that much. But favorite company, man, I don't know. I mean, depends what you're thinking. In terms of inevitable doubles, I would say SoFi is like an inevitable double. I think they're heading in the right direction. How long it takes to get to that double, I don't know. But I think I like NEXT as well. I'm betting on that one. I've sold out of SLG, a lot of it. I still have about 40-50% of it left. I sold out of Stag. But yeah, I mean, I sold Stag 2 weeks ago, last week, I don't remember, and I bought more NEXT and I bought more SoFi. So if Rocket Lab was back down at $6-7, I'd probably buy more of that. So, yeah, if you'd asked me like 2 or 3 months ago when Google was back in the 140s, I would have probably said Google's intriguing here. And I still have all my shares in Google. I have almost 400 shares. So, what stock? Just talk through some. So, hopefully that helps. Yeah, hit the like button. I appreciate all of you guys in here. 134. We're holding that pretty consistent. Please subscribe so you can chit chat with our friends in here. Let's see. Have to be careful what scammers targeting YouTuber folks. Yeah, exactly. Done it before when selling the shares, but you're saying you can also do it when selling covered calls. I forget exactly what you're talking about, my man, but I mostly, instead of selling shares, if I plan on holding the company long term, there's a difference between if you think the company's hit its peak value or not. Palantir is one of those ones where it's like it's hit its short term peak value, but 5-10 years down the road, it's still growing, right? It's not like we're talking about Pepsi here, right? Like Pepsi, Stag Industrial, for example. I've had Stag for 10 years. I literally sat there and I said, do I think Stag is going to double from here? And it very may well. Right. I'm not, I think that Butcher's a really good CEO and he's done a phenomenal job leading Stag, but the dilution of that, generally speaking, REITs are dilutive companies, right? They're debt vehicles. And so I was like, do I think that this Stag Industrial is going to continue to the point where it could double in appreciation? The answer has kind of been like, it's done well over the past 10 years. Like, let me pull it up. Like Stag isn't awful. And it's done well-ish over the past 10 years, but I think it's hitting a point now where it's matured very quickly. I bought starting in like this time frame, and I think I added more in this 2015 time frame. And so, I got my return. I don't know exactly what I got, but I got pretty good amount of shares in it. It was a couple hundred. I started off with 100 shares and I added more, and I don't know if I had like 800 or 900 shares, but I was like, is this going to go and it'll magically show up at like, oh wow, I'm really happy I sold it now. Because I sold it at like just below 40. There you go. All right, good for me. So anyway, it was one of those ones where I was like, do I honestly think it's going to double? triple from here. I was like, but Stag is a great company, pays a decent dividend. I'm like, okay, got it. But I was like, to me, I was like, what's probably more likely is that you see NEXT, more than double. Sorry. So NEXT more than double. You'll see SoFi more than double. And so I'm like, well, that's where I should put my money then, right? I made a great investment just because I made a great investment in 2015 and I've added along the way. Doesn't mean I need to hold on to it, right? Past results are not indicative of future results, right? So I was like, take that opportunity and take that money elsewhere, So had an issue with his Airbnb for being public. Yes, I did. Yes, I wanted to be nice and I share something and somebody was immediately like, "This is the address," and they bought it here. They bought it. It's like, what the fuck? Like, it's cool. I want to share that Airbnb stuff with you, but I don't want everybody knowing where the properties are. There's people out there that are like, for some reason, hate me or just dislike the fact that I'm so open. They live in their parents' basement. They're sad that I moved out at 22 when I, finished college. I moved across the country. I've been supporting myself since then. Been on my own for 11, 12 years. Thankfully, I had great parents that are able to get me there. So I've been fortunate in this life. I will just say, very fortunate. And because I've worked hard, and now I have 2 investment properties and a nice portfolio. People just don't believe it. They want to call you out. I don't know if they think I'm lying. So they're like, or saying Matt didn't lie. He actually did buy these houses. Like, I don't know what the hell this person, but like, I obviously don't want people having the addresses. They want to pay for it. Cool. I'll send you the link right now. You want to buy it? Or you want to, rent for a week? I'm all about it. But just have it open on the web, like, this is the address. It's like, anybody can then take that address anonymously and do something versus if it's on Airbnb or VRBO and they sign up and then they get the address. I at least have like an inkling as to like who you are and that you're not some random and that you're actually willing to pay to be there. And you probably will have some sort of care and responsibility for being there. So yes, that was a very upsetting moment. I was trying to be transparent with people. So now I will only share pictures of the Airbnbs that are not public, and that you can find on the website. So like, because basically what I did is I just copied one of the things from our Airbnb listing and they basically found the old Zillow link and shared it. And I was just like, well, great. Thanks. So yeah, you just have to be careful. It's like, what benefit do I get? Like I literally have only downside, and I think people are probably like, Matt's being pessimistic. It's like, I literally only have downside. I'm making a couple, if at most $200 a month by doing these live streams for you guys. And, you have the few, I'm not saying all of you, but I'm just saying you have the very few that are literally trying to screw it up for others. And I don't know if it's other YouTubers that are trolling. I don't know if it's just people that are upset, they just want to, see people be hurt. So, most beautiful voice listening. I don't think I have a very, very good voice. So I appreciate that, Lionel. I really do. Yeah, scammers, man. Yeah, scammers. It's sad. Japan's still embracing nuclear despite exactly, man. Like Japan's not stupid. Japan, yeah. Are they building more nuclear plants or are they building more nukes? I don't know what you mean by that. Midwest, my guy. Brad, what's going on, my guy? Let's see. Sal, read Psychology of Money. Yeah, and I'd say another one for anybody that listens to people. And if you like Tony Robbins, you'll probably like Jim Rohn, who was his mentor, one of his mentors. And he speaks about money very well as well. So, yeah, listen to anything by Jim Rohn. He's really good and love what he has to say. Man, I appreciate the kind words though. Yeah, cars almost paid off for me, man. I thought about using some of the money to pay that off as well. In fact, that might actually be, that's not a bad idea because like the one thing I have a couple 401k loans. That's basically what I'm like trying to pay off. And I'm like, well, if I pay off this 401k loan, and I have the money to do it right now, but it's like I have a windfall coming in. It's like I pay out this 401k loan, that's $400 a month into my pocket. And then I'm like, well, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like it's about the same to pay off my car. And as much as like I would say the car is something I should, it's about the cash flow right now. It's not necessarily about um like the what makes better sense. Like right now, I think money is better spent on trying to get my cash flow up. So having a 700 something dollar a month car payment um, is something as well. So that's a really good suggestion as well, because I was thinking like, oh, well, let me get the 401k thing done. The reason why I want to do the 401k is because that frees up $400 a month, but I also can borrow against that in the future. Um, so um, that's why I was immediately thinking 401k. But you're probably right. It's probably, if I have enough 401k loan coupled with maybe paying off the car, because that in total would be $700 a month for the car and then $400 a month for the 401k loan. So it's like $1,100 a month that's free. And so my thought process was in the short term, get that cash flow up, $400 a month, and put it into my brokerage, use that $400 a month extra into the brokerage, buy some stock or whatever. And, that would be good. And then eventually I could borrow back off the 401k if I wanted to buy another rental property or something like that, if the opportunity came up. And so, yeah, what I might end up doing instead is, that's actually probably a better idea, is paying off the car, because I plan on having the car for a while. So that's literally, I could pay. I know right now, I think the payoff date for the car is like October 2026. But it's like if it's $700 a month cash flow, that helps. And so that's a good point, man. I really appreciate you bringing that one up. I really do. I've been thinking about that one as well. It's like, do I just pay that off and then? But yeah, that's part of it. It's like cash flow is also something where it's like right now all my money is going to pay off this house a little bit earlier. So I'm trying to like get it to a place where when I refinance it, the monthly payment is a certain level. So I'm overpaying right now on this house. And then I have investments going into my individual brokerage account. So it's like I don't have a lot of breathing room between all those things. So my thought process is, it's like if I get a little breathing room, then I can pull back on some of these things right now. Not that I want to, but my hope is to kind of get ready for some sort of pullback in the markets, because the markets have been really healthy for me lately. And I should, while I have that, maybe pay down some small auxiliary debts here and there. Like I said, debt isn't bad. Like I have 401k loans, but that comes directly out of my paycheck, right? So it's kind of like, well, if I'm able to get that $400 back on a paycheck on a monthly basis, I could put that in my brokerage instead, and use that. I don't know, use that as leverage for something else. Because right now, if you think, let me give you a little insight into 401k loans. So you can only, in some cases you can have two. In some cases you have you can have three or maybe more. Right now I have two. So I have one from the this house that I bought. So instead of coming out of pocket and selling stuff from my brokerage, I said, well, let me just use my 401k loan. And that was a good idea, because using the 401k, I was able to pay on a monthly basis, but instead of selling something like, part of Palantir or something like that, not that would have been the first choice, but I've been able to return 50-60%. So that was a wise choice. So there's a delta that I've made off of that. And then same thing with the house that I bought in May, I took another loan from that. But the problem is like you can have two loans up to $50,000 in total. And so both of them I borrowed was like 20 grand. So I want to pay off the one, and that'll allow me to borrow 30 grand in the future. So because you could borrow up to 50 grand, and the other one's still 20 grand, and it won't allow you to pay, like say you paid down 15 out of the $20,000, you only have 5,000 remaining. It's not like you can borrow that 15. It's you can only borrow up to what the total initial amount was. So the most I'd be able to borrow in the future is 30 grand unless I paid off both of those loans. So anyway, gives you a little insight, maybe more context is what I was talking about earlier. Let's see. Yes, appreciate you coming to the lives, my friend. And like I said, everything's just strictly when I talk about it's for me. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be for you. Just trying to help, guide people and what I would do, and then maybe they can think about the same. It's like, oh, I didn't think about that. It's a different perspective. This is what I would do because this is what I want, right? Those 5 key things: objective, time horizon, etc. I lost your Palantir that first day it went up because I thought it would close out of the money after it exploded. You could keep rolling. Yeah, like you could roll the opportunity, right? Like right now, like when you think about it, it's like I was underwater, but then I rolled it to the point where the break even is now, even though it's a $34 cover call, the break even was $38.50 or something like that. Granted, it's rolled away from that, but I could look again in a couple of weeks and roll it, because it's getting close to the expiry, and hopefully I'll be able to get breathing room, whether it's the break even's closer to 41, $42, and eventually my hope is that Palantir stays flat. My hope is really, in my anticipation rather, is that the current price is justifying 35% year-over-year revenue growth, and I just don't see us getting there in the third quarter. I could be wrong, so we'll see on October 31st. Oh yeah, no need for condolences. I appreciate you guys. I was just trying to sympathize with Mama June. It's definitely tough. Losing a parent. I'm sure many of you guys have. So appreciate everybody that has. It's not easy. All the power to you guys. And if you ever need 2 ears, I have them. MicroStrategy to 1,000. I've been selling puts on MicroStrategy very far out of the money though, but that's been a huge moneymaker for me. Dude, yeah, lost your dad in the 8th grade. I couldn't imagine. I at least got 31, 30 good years with my dad. So to lose your dad in 8th grade, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's really tough. My relationship really changed with my dad. He was kind of a disciplinarian, and I appreciate that now later in life. But my relationship very much changed into a friendly relationship with him, less like a father-son sort of relationship once I got out of college and started working. And so, yeah, it was very tough to lose him because he wasn't just my father anymore. He was my friend. And same thing with my brother. It was very tough because my brother, for example, I was going to have him be the best man at my wedding if I ever had one. So very tough to lose him. Yeah, losing your dad in 8th grade. That makes me emotional. Sorry, everybody. Don't mean to get teary-eyed on the stream, but I hate to hear that somebody lost their dad that early on. Paying interest on a car is a bad take. Most of the time, interest is high. Your investment has to outperform the interest. Even the 5% you might outperform really would do much. Maybe. My car payment's like 3%. I bought it in 2020, so my car payment's like 2.5%, 3% or something like that, and I've been able to return, instead of paying cash for that, which I could have back then as well, I've been able to return 50 to 100% easily just this year alone on some of the investments that I would have not have. Do you have any Japanese companies on your radar? I do not, unfortunately. Are you still looking into blend? I am potentially. I still need to kind of figure out what exactly BLND is all about. Wong, what's going on, my guy? Keep up the live streams. I know you do well. You can buy Rocket Lab at 12 right now in 2027. Yes, but that'll cost you money. Let me see. It's not cheap, if I remember. Yeah, 440. So you'd have to break even at $16. So you think about it, it's like, what do you think is actually going to happen? I would potentially, depending on if I know Depending on what the price is for Rocket Lab before the launch, a month ahead, I might do some gambling, like medium term sort of calls, depending on what the call prices are, the premiums are, and what the stock price is. If the stock's already at $15, then I'm probably not gonna. But agreed. Wen Island, my guy. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, Rocket Lab will do. Rocket Lab will do good things. Dean Pierce, what's going on, my guy? ADC is your favorite REIT. ADC, is that that's not agree, is it? Agree. It is agree. Okay. I haven't done much on agree. I don't know. When did it start flatlining? It started flatlining even before interest rates. I don't know, unless they change something. No bueno for me. All the best to you, though. Yes. Let me just put this in the chat again. Please, if you have not already, please take an opportunity to look at Twitch and sign up over there. UC is up 593 in the last 5 years is when I bought in and out of, made good returns, which I purchased more Rocket Lab. Congratulations. I've done UEC on the channel in the past. They've asked me to look at the stock. I was pretty impressed by it. It was pretty cool. Yeah, things I think will start hitting the fan as well. What does Stag trade under? Trades under Stag. STAG. I live in nothing but Airbnb. Superhost is huge. Congrats on the maintaining that. Yeah, man. 1 year, got $100. $100, man. If I go Southeast Asia, $100 might get me an entire night's free stay somewhere. So it's nice. Every year that I can maintain that, I get $100. So if I do it for 7 years, I might be able to get like $700. And yeah, leak the address, dude. Right? Can you believe that? What is good? AI. What up? Oh, AL. Is it AL? AI? Amazing person. Thank you. No, appreciate you guys, man. You guys are the reason why I do it. You guys are the reason why I come on. Talent Energy Management expects a 3x. Good luck. Good luck. People hating. People always hating. This sounds like some Inception type shit. Do you want to grow up to be a man filled with regret? You know? The tax and security risks is possible. Any relation to Chris? No, but I used to, when people would give me crap, I would tell that to them just to get them off my back. What are your thoughts about lithium? I don't know. I know that some of the oil companies are making thoughts on the lithium. We'll see. I personally, from a stock market perspective, I don't know. From a personal perspective, I'm long. I would like to buy some lithium phosphate batteries for my house because we have kind of infrequent intermittent power during hurricane season sometimes. And so I would like to have some lithium phosphate batteries hooked up to my house. So that way, and also it'll help with energy. So maybe not for this house. I thought about doing it for this house. And then I don't know necessarily if I'm going to be moving in 2025. It really all just depends on when I can refinance this house. If I could refinance this house, get my payments down, and then look for another house, more of like a long-term focused house, the one that I'll be living in. I love this house. Don't get me wrong, but I bought it more so to be a future rental. I love this house for what it is, and what it is a future rental for me, not a long-term stay. It's a great house, but I refuse to like furnish it because I know in 12 to 18 months, I'll probably be moving somewhere. And the insights into 2x leverage ETFs into their daily reset. Bought TSLL for 10 out of 10. I expect 300 on Tesla. All the power to you, man. I invest in TQQQ, triple leverage, NASDAQ 100. So I can't hate on you. It's just you got to be ready for the volatility. Hood needs to offer 401k loaning. Would be smart. Would be smart. They can get some money from that. You investing in Grant Cardone really surprises me. Good experience. Great experience. Great experience. I bought, to give people some insights. So what got me involved was there's a place that he bought back in 2018, 2019 that was in Fund 5. And you know, I went to go look at it. It's a great part of town. It's in Southwest Houston in Sugarland, so it's not technically Houston, but it's Sugarland. Nice part of town. Went to go get some food out there. One of my buddies, a couple buddies live out there, Sugarland. So let me take a look. Took a look, liked them. Looked at the other places that were in the fund. They were real. They were legitimate. Been getting, I think at this point I've gotten like over 3,500. So let me step back. 2019, I put in about $15,000, to which it's appreciated pretty substantially. So I think the stake, a lot of people are like, that's dumb. Like, it's not a loan. Like, I own 5 different apartment complexes, parts of, right? So to put it in perspective, what the funds were, there was an accredited fund, there was a non-accredited fund. I invested in the non-accredited fund because at the time I wasn't worth $1 million. Now I could invest in accredited funds, but at the same time, the accredited funds make you put like 50 to 100 grand in. I don't know if I want to put that much in. So non-accredited funds, you don't need to be a millionaire, or accredited. You could just put, your money in. At the minimum was like 5 grand. So put the 15 grand in collectively with people in Fund 4 and Fund 5. Fund 4 was accredited. I think altogether was close to $150 million. It purchased 5 different apartment complexes, and not outright, right? But 30 million here, 30 million there. So with that, we've now been able to own these apartment complexes for 4 to 5 years. The equity in these have obviously appreciated. So that's the nice thing about real estate. When you leverage, if the value of the real estate goes up 2x, or say the value of the real estate, let's just put an example. Say you put 20% down and the value of the real estate goes up 10%, the total real estate, you're leveraged 5 to 1. So really your money is 5x because you control the asset. You've paid 20% for that asset, but the total asset itself has doubled in price. But you have only put in 1/5 of that initial asset price, and now it's doubled. So technically, you've doubled the value of your money comparatively to what the asset is. So it's very interesting, a very, very nice way about how real estate works a little bit. So the value of the real estate's doubled. It's independently every year evaluated, and then I get my cash flow into my checking account every month. So I've gotten about $3,500, $3,600 back in that 5 years. So they're very transparent. They were aiming about 6% return, cash, like cash on cash return for the dividends. They're only at about 4.5% to 5%. It's gone up. So now it's aiming closer to 6%. But over the past 4 to 5 years, it was below 6%. So they're honest about that. They put that on the website. But the value of that is interesting. It went up a little bit. Now it's come down a little bit because some of those assets were interest only, and now you're paying interest and principal. So you're paying a little bit more. So it's interesting. I'm curious to see if we refinance those. If we do, it'll be interesting because a lot of them have already appreciated pretty substantially. So in the last 4 to 5 years, you have to think real estate alone in 2021, 2022 has gone through the roof. And you think there was a couple of years worth of appreciation before that and appreciation after that. So if you were to refinance, you could, depending on what you do, you could almost refinance probably 50 to 100% of the money that you put into those deals, give it back to investors, and still own, the asset, because technically you've built equity because it's appreciated. You've built equity into those opportunities. So you could technically take money out. And so what they end up doing, I don't know. If I do get money back out from a refinance, I'll probably just put it into a future fund. I don't need the money. I would prefer the cash flow. So getting a couple $100 a month would be pretty dope. And I look at it as like, an ability to reinvest. So would I do the same thing for the next 15 to 20 years? Probably not. So if I were to get a refinance today, or like in the next year, I'd probably re-put it in there, knowing that in another 5 to 10 years, I would probably get another refinance and use that But it really also depends. Like if it's a refinance and they want to buy us out, then I'd probably end up with like 45, 50 grand. I would lose the however much a month, 70, 50, 70, 70 to $75 a month in cash flow, which is fine. But I might put that into another rental property myself. Or if I reinvested it, I'd probably get a little bit more. That's the thing, is like when you invest in real estate, it's like you kind of want to refinance if it makes sense and always have your money appropriately leveraged. So 20% down if you only have one house is probably okay. But if you have a whole portfolio, having 20% down on a whole portfolio is probably pretty risky, because then you're talking about 5-to-1 leverage across an entire portfolio. So I'd like to get closer to like 25 to 30% equity, or like a 75 to 70% loan to value for the entirety of my portfolios. So that's kind of what I'm aiming right now with my personal properties, this one included. So I'd like to get this one to like a 30%. So that way you could always use it and refinance if you need to, or take a line of credit against it. So for example, if I owned 40% of this house and I see an opportunity somewhere, I could take a line of credit out for 15%, and I own if I own 40% of this house, I took a line of credit out for 15%. I could still own 25% whole clear of this house. So if there's any recession, I'd still be fine through that. Any down plays in the market for housing, etc., I'd still be fine with that. I could use that 15%, find another 5%, 20%, 5% to 10% somewhere else, put it together, have a 20 to 25% down payment for another property. And to me, I'm in like wealth appreciation mode. Like I'm not really looking for cash flow so much. So I'm trying to expand, and eventually it's going to get to the point where it's like, okay, consolidate. And I don't necessarily, at that point, maybe I'll be closer to like a 50% loan to value ratio. So a little bit less about appreciating the portfolio and more so about the cash flow of things. It really just depends on where I see the portfolio going. If I see the portfolio outlasting my lifetime and going towards like nieces and nephews, and like there's an actual business, that'd be very different than if it's just for me. If it's just for me, then it's like I just need a certain amount of cash flow. Like I have a number that I want to get to, but if I have the house, my forever house, and I have the ability to work or not work, I have that flexibility, I'm able to do what I want, hang out with friends, family, etc., then there's that. But anyway, I'm falling way behind. Let's see if I can scroll through. Why did I take a 401k loan? Because I would have had to sell Palantir or something like that. I'd rather borrow against the S&P 500, and which is mostly what my 401k is, and it was cheap-ish. So, and comes directly out of my paychecks as well. Yeah, you pay yourself. You're not paying a bank, so it's kind of nice. How important is cash flow to you, or do you just try to find places you expect to appreciate? 50-50, right? Like I want to make sure I don't want to be paying out of pocket. So I want to make sure it's in a place that it's not going to depreciate in value. It's always going to have value going forward. So we were just actually discussing buying in Outer Banks, because I think that that's a good place to potentially buy. What is the reason why Celsius keeps going lower? I think it was overvalued. I think a lot of people are starting to get scared with Pepsi saying, hey, we're not going to necessarily take as much orders from them. I think Pepsi was a little bit bullish, which caused the price to run so much. So bullish meaning Pepsi's the distributor. So they said, give us as much as you can. They had a bunch. They took a bunch. And so it looked like Celsius was selling a shit ton. Then Pepsi said, we have way too much. The year-over-year growth for sales was great, but I think Pepsi just took on too much too quickly. And so they said, slow down. And so they slowed down. And so it looked like, oh my God, not as many people buying a Celsius. So it tanked. My thought process is it's overdone. I'm curious to see what the 3Q numbers look like. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 15 to 20% bump on earnings. I haven't looked much into it, but I just anticipate that it's oversold. And so if you see numbers meet or exceed expectations slightly, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not forecasting that it will, but I would not be surprised if you see a large jump. And at that point, I would say there's a floor, right? So I'm looking for when the floor is, and if that's the case, I'll probably go long a little bit, but it wouldn't be one that I hold forever. What I'm anticipating from Celsius is a lot of share buybacks because they have a lot of cash. It's a very high margin business, so my thought process is they're going to continue to do well. They're going to continue to grow. They're going to buy back stock, and so it'd be nice to be involved in that. So. Yeah, my mom lost her mind for a little bit. It's never easy, man. I'm sorry to hear about your father. It's terrible. Damn. 15, going into high school. What an awful time. I'm sorry to hear about that too. Dumb question. Does the break even rising in the cover call assume that you're reinvesting all the premiums back into the stock? It does mean that you are buying back the loss. So it technically means like I haven't gained any profits on my Palantir since like $32 or $33. So what that technically means is like I'm sitting on kind of like a negative return, if that makes sense, on those things. And so I've kind of eaten that cost basis. So the hope is that eventually I'll be able to roll it again, and either the premiums that I basically sell for in the future is at a break even. So for example, let's just say the stock holds at $40 for forever. Okay. And I'm able to roll from 33 to 34 and eventually get to $40. And I sell a $40 covered call for $5 or $6. Well, eventually, as the closer you get, if it stays flat at $40, and let's just say for this example, it does, that's all extrinsic value. So technically, maybe let's say I sell $40.50 covered call to make it super. So I'm selling 50 cents out of the money, and it just stays flat for several months. Technically, all the money in that $40.50 call is extrinsic value. So I could let it close and let it expire. So the hope is over time, you eventually get to the place where you roll it, you buy it back, and you buy back basically the whole thing. And there's more there's more intricacies than I'm letting on, but there's two ways you could do it. You could just buy back for what the cost is now, roll it forward, try to sell it for a slight profit or break even going into the future, to eventually hope that you get to a place where you can realize all that premium again. Hopefully the stock pulls back, or hopefully you're able to roll out and eventually get to a place where the stock stops going up like it has, like crazy, and there's a flat line for a couple months that allows you to eventually realize all those premiums. Because right now, a lot of those premiums are probably intrinsic value, meaning if you were to let it expire, then you would kind of like realize all that. Versus if you were to continue to roll out, it eventually lose, right? There's actually theta associated with it. There's zero reason why that. It's just literally extrinsic. There's no reason for those premiums other than theta premium, the delta, how close it is or far away from the money, and really just like the what people think that the value of it could be in the future. So as you get closer and closer to time being zero, the closer and closer it would get to zero because it's not in the money. So that's kind of the hope. The other piece that you could do as well is, let's say you sold, let's backtrack here. And let's say you sold a $32 or $33 covered call for $1 and it blew past that. And now to buy it back would be worth $8 because it's a $32 covered call and now it's $40. So to buy it back, essentially you'd be rolling it into the future, hopefully. Well, because you already made $1 off the initial rip, what you could do is say, give up that profit entirely, right? And with that, now instead of looking for $8 for whatever you sell in the future, you're looking for $7. Because at this point, let's just say I just don't want to lose my shares. I'll make money back in the long term as I write covered calls in the future. But for this one, I effed up. I'm okay foregoing, the dollar in premiums. So that might allow you to roll up way further and allow you to kind of potentially get out of the trade quicker. So what you can't do that is you can't do that again, right? You can only do it on the first time. So if you do it again, you're essentially carrying the loss, right? If you buy, like, let's say you do it for $7 and it continues to run, you can't be like, oh, I bought it back for $7. Now I had to buy it back for $9. So now I'm looking to just roll for $2, $2.50 of premium. You can't do that because then you just banked in $7 worth of loss on that particular thing. So it's $7 per share, by the way. So it's $700 loss. So you can't do that. You can only do it on the first time, because the first time is when you booked an initial profit of $100. That's your max profit. What you're saying is, I'm okay giving up all that profit to just get out of this trade as soon as possible. So that's what I mean by that. So yeah, I think a lot of people just get afraid and they say, "Oh, I'm just going to get my shares cut away." It's like, you don't have to. If you really honestly think that the shares are going to come back, then you can roll them for a long time. Let's see. What does it matter with Brazil and ETFs and stocks? I don't know. Let's see. What am I trimming right now? TQQQ is probably the only thing I would be trimming, maybe NVIDIA, but I would be investing both into SPY or something equivalent. Ahad, what's going on? Yeah, you're big into the food companies. I'm not a big fan right now of food companies personally. Let's see. Yeah, I'm concerned now with the jobs reports that we're seeing that we're only going to see quarter point cuts, which makes it why I feel like the TLT trade is probably not as much of an advantage as I once thought. I thought we were going to see closer to 125 to 150 basis point cuts throughout the rest of the year. It doesn't necessarily see that. How do you feel about telecoms and embed directly with Rocket Lab and other ride services, blend of tech and space? I don't necessarily think telecom is in bed with Rocket Lab per se. Maybe others, but Rocket Lab, I don't think so. Not at the moment yet. I do not think there will be a crash like 2007. Will there be a real estate pullback? Potentially. But a crash like 2007, I think it's a very different market. Let's see. Greener, what's going on, my guy? Celsius hard pass. It's understandable, man. Yeah, it's not for everyone. It is not for everyone. Do you create a discounted cash flow model before investing in stocks? Yes and no. I kind of do a mental one. I don't really ever do like a hardcore one. I kind of just look at where I think the stock will go, what I think the total addressable market will be, what I think it'll be selling in terms of revenue, what in terms of like cash flow do I think it'll be, and I kind of keep a mental model of it, where I think the stock will be based off of that. Granted, that's kind of always at a liberty of, are they doing buybacks? Or are they doing dilution? So, do I think Rocket Lab is due for a large space systems contracts? It already has a couple large ones. It's got the Space Development Agency contracts. It's got probably more Space Development Agency contracts coming through. So I'm not surprised if we see others. They want to get in the short term the backlog to 2 billion. So which will be nice because that means their backlog to run rate would be closer to 4 to 5x compared to where it is now. Next year, I anticipate revenues going closer to 600 to 650 million. So that would kind of bring the backlog back down to, 3.5 to 3x if they only stay at 2 billion. So I'm anticipating there's going to be a lot of backlog, especially once the Neutron rocket goes up into space, and there's going to be a lot of backlog associated with that. So I think another piece is which a lot of people aren't thinking about, is they have their own constellation that they're potentially working on as well, right? So would that show up in the backlog? I don't know. I think that would be, how quick can they make those satellites and put them up into space and generate revenue off of them? So I'm kind of curious to see how that gets counted into the future, that right now, at the moment, doesn't really show up in any of the presentations. It's just talked about. So I'm curious to see how that shows up, and where does that show up in the backlog? Is there a backlog that they show of which is their own self-realized revenue of them sending those things into space, or is it going to be completely, set separately? That I don't know. Yeah, well, do you think it's going to be Anduril? We'll see. We'll see if it's Anduril. And by Anduril, though, I think Anduril, I don't know, so this is speculation, but I think Anduril also has some defense aspect to it as well. So I think it could be a bunch of haste missions. I think it could be, which haste is non-orbital, like it's suborbital, if that makes sense. So not going into space, it's still under kind of the sphere of Earth. And I know Anduril also wants to get involved in space as well. So curious to see. What do you think of DXYZ? I don't know anything about it. Destiny Tech 100. I don't know. It's brand new. It was founded in 2020, headquartered in Austin. Closed-end fund, no dividend. So I don't know. I don't know what stocks are in it. I do not know what stocks are in it. Anduril does make rocket motors, but rocket motors doesn't necessarily have to be orbital, right? It could be suborbital. And Anduril does currently do suborbital stuff, right? But it also depends on range. So what could be done is, let's say Anduril wants to have some sort of communications or anti-defense or something. What it could do is, let's say it's going to be part of some sort of homeland defense or something of the like. It could allow the Anduril thing, which is good in, let's say, a mile radius. What it could do is it could use the haste launch vehicle to get it, several thousand miles in a certain direction, and then give you the precision. Not to say that the haste launch won't be precision, but it'll allow you to give that maneuverability, the quick maneuverability with the smaller rocket or defense tool or whatever Anduril has in the thought process for using kind of like a secondary stage. I don't know. That's what I envision haste kind of for. I do not have any ways of investing in Anduril. It only invests in private companies? I thought you said a company that wasn't private, though. I was like, what was it? Where was it? Why am I not seeing it? Oh, OpenAI and Space. Okay, never mind. OpenAI isn't public either. Yes. So yes, hypersonics, for missile detection, array of toys. Yeah, exactly. Starboard reportedly takes 1 billion stake in Pfizer and seeks changes. Interesting. Yes, I agree. I think haste will be $100 million a year. I'm curious to see what ends up happening, because we've had literally one haste launch, and that was June 2023. and that was in Wallops. So we've literally been at this point 15 months without a haste launch. So my hope is the 2 or 3 that we do in the fourth quarter, and then the 2 or 3 that we do in the first quarter will. We went from having one client, which was Lidos, to still having Lidos, and now we have subsets of the Department of Defense in 3 of those contracts. So my hope is we launch a couple more. That shows the validity of those haste launches and what they're capable of. And the hope is that maybe you have a further subset of, say, 2 or 3 customers arrive from there. And the hope is every time you get 4 or 5 launches under your belt with haste, you get another customer. And my hope is that eventually it ends up launching about, I want to say, I think the long term, not long term, that's probably a bad way to look. I want to say in the midterm, I want to say 30 launches. In the medium term per annum for haste. So I'm talking like the next couple of years. I'm not talking about today, but my hope is that. 2,000 employees since May. Jesus. Well, hopefully they don't overemploy people. Yes. Red October might be real. Do you know the process? You have to have, specifically private companies, you have to have either somebody vouch for you and you have to invest in their fund, which is a verified fund and a accredited fund to invest, or you have to be an accredited investor with connections. So I know that's like how Amit was able to invest in one of those robot companies. Was he was able to invest in a fund or be vouched for to be able to invest in it. It's private, right? So a lot of times you're either buying new capital or having to buy from existing employees, because sometimes the existing employees will also have the ability to sell their shares to either other employees, founders, or whatever. So they might do that as well. So they might say, what employees are selling, I might take a portion of that, or what ends up most of the time happening is they end up diluting. But that's most of the time what happens when you go and buy things on the private market. So they're most of the time, that's why they're selling, is because they're trying to get capital for something. They're most of the time pre-IPO or whatever. So when SpaceX gets these funding rounds, that's what they're doing. They're diluting people. So, and there's a whole game associated with that, right? I mean, people always want to make sure that you might be like, oh, this will be a $20 billion company. It's like, yeah, but you just started yesterday. So we'll give you a $500 million valuation. And you'll be like, oh, but I need the money. So you have to play this game of like, do I want to struggle to get this money through organic means, or do I want to do it inorganically, have somebody buy into the company to accelerate me 2 to 3 years into the future, right? So it's one of those things where you have to buy and sell off. So it's like, well, if I do it organically, my company is worth X today. If I do it inorganically, I have a valuation of, say, $500 million. And now I've jump started ahead for capital 3 to 4 years. It'll allow me to focus on X instead of Y. And that'll allow you to grow. And you're like, yes, I've diluted myself 50%, but I had a runway of 20 months with this. Now I have a runway of 60 months, 5 years, whatever. So it gives you pluses and minuses. And this is kind of my understanding. I'm not an oracle when it comes to that. There are websites that invest in private companies as well. Yeah, 100%. Anduril's the new Boeing. They're investing smart and rockstar team. Plus, they know how to market and have the best advertisements out there. Key is employees. We'll see. We will see. All right, all. I was not expecting to be on for 2 hours or so. I was expecting to just hang out. So I appreciate Fool's Gold for the $20. Please, if anybody is interested in becoming a member, please think about doing so. I am contemplating doing private sort of stuff for members, or even starting a Patreon. Some of you guys expressed interest in that. So we'll see. Just right now with 21 members, it just doesn't make sense to go off and do something unless there's guaranteed folks that will be watching it. So who knows? Maybe it ends up being something where if we get enough members, I might make a certain portion of it like members only, right? Like, for example, let me just show you guys what I mean. It might be interesting to see because I've never done it. But what I could do technically is instead of just subscribers only, which is what I do right now, I could do something of the like, which is, and I appreciate there's a lot of people that subscribed just from this stream alone. So really, really appreciate it. But what I can do is I can do something like this, just do a little members only. So that way, anybody that's a member can chit chat and type, but the rest of you guys cannot. So I've never done that. Just trying it out. So it's interesting to kind of see it come through. So I'm just looking in the back end, and it looks like it did. But yeah, I don't have any plans on doing something like that. Really, at the moment, I just mostly mess around with subscribers only to keep away the trolls. So, but in the future, it might be something that I do for certain parts, right? If there's like any Q&A or anything of the like. But yeah, like I said, it's not enough right now to make it worthwhile. I prefer to have 130 of you guys chit-chatting, 120 of you guys chit-chatting in the room. And it means a lot. So for any of you guys that haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that. I appreciate the 123 of you that have been on here. Please do me one last favor. I know I keep begging and I sound like a broken record. But if any of you guys have Twitch accounts, please go and follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to grow that avenue as well. You never know what happens with YouTube, whether or not they outlaw talking about finance or whatever in general. So I'm just trying to diversify and grow just in case multiple things happen. If you guys are listening to this after and you're not seeing the live chat as well, you could just go into the description. As always, appreciate you guys so much. 120 of you guys stayed around for quite some time. I'm going to see if I can catch the last tail end of this football game. It might have already been over. So we will see. Hope you guys enjoyed and have a great week trading. Cheers.